Hey there, I'm Mary Gilgerson and welcome to my studio. One of my favorite all-time quotes comes from old Sigmund Freud, and he talked a lot about creativity and inspiration. What he said was that when inspiration doesn't come, that he goes halfway to meet it. Let me rephrase that. The direct quote was, when inspiration doesn't come, I go halfway to meet it. So I want you to remember that inspiration isn't an act of divine genius. All too often I hear artists talk about, well, I just didn't feel like painting today, or I wasn't feeling very inspired, or I just didn't feel like picking up the paintbrush, or I don't know how to get started. They're all waiting around for inspiration. So from the Renaissance, we have this idea that inspiration is the creative genius that kind of pops you on the head, and somehow you're going to get this download from the universe that gives you the great idea that to make good art, we have to be a genius. That's not true. The reality is that, just as Freud said, inspiration arrives in a quiet way. It arrives in the whole myriad of tiny little acts, the quiet moments that move us along in the creative process. So simply showing up on a consistent basis will lead to way more inspired moves than waiting for that download from the universe. That's not going to happen, or it'll happen rarely. You'll never make very much art if you're waiting around for that. Genius arrives in those little tiny quiet moments from simply showing up to do the work. So don't wait around for inspiration before you start to paint. Here's some simple steps that can help you meet inspiration halfway. Number one, show up on a consistent basis. That means make the studio a regular habit. Remember, in creativity hack number 2, I talked about studio being a state of mind. It doesn't have to be a dedicated space or place. It can be a dedicated time period where you set a regular corner of your house, a corner of a room up to work in. So studio is a mindset, and it happens from showing up on that regular basis. Schedule time. Put it on your calendar. Schedule regular time in the studio. Inspiration will come be your partner. Remember that if you have that dedicated space or that dedicated time, that's way more important rather than the dedicated space. Number 2, when you're feeling uninspired, when you just think picking up that brush is the last thing you want to do some of the boring, mundane tasks that move your creative process along. One of my favorite is I prep panels. So if I'm using my gesso, ampersand gesso board panels, I will tone the surface of those. I'll get a whole bunch of them out, spread them out on the table on top of some newspaper, and get my yellow ochre out and tone all the panels. If I'm prepping cradled panels and I'm going to shellac them, I'll get those out and do 10 at a time. That's a mundane task that has to get done. Almost every time I do something like that, whether it's gessoing canvas or prepping panels, by the time I'm about halfway through the process, I've sort of let go of this need to have a big, fat, hairy idea, and I just can't wait to pick up a paintbrush and move paint around. Inspiration happens in the mundane tasks. So don't put those off. Use those to get yourself jump-started. Third thing that really helps is put the element of play back into your work. Now, this is a double-edged sword. I don't know about y'all, but one of the things I hate is when people come up to me and tell me, it's so wonderful that you get to make a living playing, because that phrase diminishes what you do as an artist. It sort of makes it sound like, again, that you're waiting for that divine download, the universe to download the idea, and that there isn't much effort or hard work that goes into it. But if you focus just on the effort and hard work, you're leaving the inspiration out. Play is an important part of that. if you can incorporate play back in, and what I mean by that is detaching from the outcome. Let go of the idea that every painting you make has to be perfect and has to be wonderful. If you want to get 50 great paintings, make 100, because you're far more likely to have those 50 great paintings occur through the act of making more than you need. Allow the outcome to not be so important. Let yourself make some bad paintings. Let play back in. Play leads to inspired action. Play is one of the key things that lets inspiration show up. So just to recap those 3 things, you want to show up on a consistent basis. Doesn't matter if you don't have a dedicated studio space. Get some dedicated time and set up a small area in your house. Number 2, if you're feeling uninspired, work on some of those mundane tasks, the boring stuff, the repetitive acts that are things that have to get done to move your creative process along anyway. You'll be all ready to go when inspiration does happen. Then 3rd, add play back in. Let go of the need for everything to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Give yourself the space to detach from the outcome. Hope those are helpful. Drop a comment in below and let me know what you're doing or what you already do to invite inspiration into the process of making your paintings. So, hey Nancy, it's good to see you here, and Helen George. Hey Judy, it's good to see you. And Gina, I haven't seen you in ages. I'm seeing part of the comments, not all of them. Hey Denise, thank you for that, being safe. I think we're all going to be fine here. It's going to be an offshore event. So for all of you, this is kind of segmenting it according to time here, but for all of you on the East Coast, remember that we have a storm out there. It's supposed to stay out. We want to all stay safe. This is a great time to paint because you're not going to be able to go outdoors. So get some painting going. Use those moments that arrive to good effect. Anybody have any grand ideas of what they do for finding inspiration halfway? Hey, Leslie, it's good to see you. And Carson and Stephanie. Hey, Wendy, yes, it's artwork. It is. It's work, but work that's hand in hand with play. So I want you to hold on to both of those. You have to show up. That's work. You have to treat it as if it's something that's important, that deserves the time and effort. You know, Chuck Close says, and I'm going to paraphrase him here, that inspiration is for amateurs, that professionals just show up and do the work. I agree with that, almost 90%. Inspiration's important though, but you find it in showing up for work. And that's the way I would rephrase that, so that you realize that you don't have to go searching for it and you don't have to make it drudgery. You're not going to make better paintings by hustling and working hard. Working hard and thinking everything has to be hard is actually going to tighten you up, and it's going to freeze you up and you won't be able to paint. So there's that fine line or a balance between the work and the play. And within that balance, you'll find flow. So having a regular practice, showing up consistently, gives you the space or the framework and box in which to welcome play and inspiration in. So hope y'all find that helpful. Have a great rest of the week and happy painting, everybody. Bye-bye for now.